if you can tell me your name and how you spell it, first of all.
My name is Gillon Dobie, which is Gamma. I can't remember now.
Spelling. So, we're at GrowUp Farms, and we're going to be having a proper look round the actual sort of factory floor in a bit. I don't know, is factory the right word? I don't know what it is. It's a farm. We're on a farm.
It's a farm.
It's a farm in a building.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a look around the farm in a minute, but I want to just kind of talk through first what it is you actually do here. So what are we going to see? What is actually in the farm?
So the farm, which we call is Pepperness, we're producing leafy greens in a controlled environment, and then those are harvested, and then they're bagged, and then they're put on a lorry and they're sent to supermarkets.
And why is that different to any other bagged salad you might get in a supermarket?
It's different because it's grown in a controlled environment. So we are controlling the temperature, we're controlling the climate, we're controlling the light, and we're doing it in layers, in a big chamber. Mm-hmm. And then we're also doing all of this in a high care environment, mm-hmm. which is hyper clean, which means that we prevent pathogens and nasties getting in, and that means that the product that we produce doesn't need to be washed to meet food safety regulations, and that means it lasts a lot longer in the bag.
Why have you done it? Because it's a colossal investment to create all this. What's the point?
I suppose the point is there's sort of two or three things. I mean, one, the most important is the environmental costs of, the demands that are required to feed the world. Mm-hmm. This is just another way of reducing that cost, one way or another. I mean, once this farm is fully operational, it'll use a lot less water, to the tune of over 90%.
90% less water?
Yeah, more than 90. I don't like going like 94, I think we're at the moment, but between 90 and 94, yeah. And we produce it with a lot less greenhouse gas emissions. Fun fact is the growing lettuce, half of the greenhouse gas emissions of growing lettuce is nitrogen. So, and you can split that in half. It's the energy needed to make the nitrogen, and then the nitrogen that gets into the river that then makes it respire and produce carbon dioxide, so both sides. Well, because we operate in a controlled environment, we can reuse that nitrogen. It doesn't run off into the rivers, so it's much more efficient, so our emissions are lower too, significantly lower.
And in terms of the physical sort of footprint of the place, how big is this plant going to be? And what is that the equivalent to if you were to grow that amount of lettuce on a normal field?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's about 4 acres in size, and that's equivalent, once fully operational, to about 1,000 acres of Grade 1 farmland.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is great. It is really cool. And we've spent a lot of time and energy trying to figure out how to do it. Yeah.
So physically, how do you do that then? It's called vertical farming. What does that actually mean? So
hopefully we'll see it, but inside the farm over there, we have chambers. Each chamber is 3 double-decker buses long, 3 double-decker buses high, and 3 double-decker buses wide. And inside you've got kind of layers. And under each layer is some lights, and above is that you've got a tray, and then the lettuce is then in a sort of plastic frame, mm-hmm. and it floats in the tray, and then the nutrient water is then feeding the roots of the plant, and then the lights above are then providing it with the light it needs to grow.
And the actual environment in that chamber is really crucial, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we can adjust the environment to prompt the plants to do different things. So if you want it to grow quickly, if you want it to taste different, if you want it to different colours and things, we can adjust. And we have a team in Cambridge, our rocket scientists, at our leaf lab.
Rocket scientists
at our leaf lab, and they develop our GrowUp. And basically, there's a hell of a lot of science that goes into producing a crop that is really tasty, but also is produced very efficiently, and therefore has a lower environmental footprint.
I mean, one day, do you think we're going to genuinely see a lot more of farming going on like this?
This is also a good question. I think vertical farming serves a purpose in British agriculture. We import most of our fresh produce, and we don't need to if we do more of this. I think there's absolutely no need to bring it from warmer countries if we can do more of this. That said, it is a very complicated piece of kit, and it will roll out over time, but it's not like, we've spent 7-8 years trying to perfect this factory here. I think it is possible, but you can't just switch the lights on and go. You need a lot of time and energy and thought that goes into being able to produce a product like this.
And let's talk about the product. So we've got a bag here of unbelievable crisp green leaves. Stays fresher in your fridge. So first thing is, it does genuinely stay fresher in the fridge, does it? Yeah,
it will do. I mean, this one must have been harvested a couple of days ago, but this one here, the use-by date is the 21st of August, which is in 11 days' time. And I'd like to see any other bag lettuce that can actually say that. So in your fridge, you can open that bag and keep eating it, and it'll still taste great for 11 days, which...
but there's no preservatives involved,
no.
and no pesticides. There's no chemicals on it at all.
No, it's just virgin lettuce. We don't use any chemicals to produce this product that would make it last longer. It's just what it is. We're just growing it with immense care and attention.
And then the other side of it, there's lots of people who are producing kind of artisan bespoke stuff that is good for the environment or organically produced or however they're doing it, but that ends up kind of either going into high-end restaurants or going into farmers markets, and you pay a really high premium for it. That's not what this is about, is it?
No, I mean, you can pick this up in Tesco. It's a commodity product for everybody. It's not it's restaurant quality greens for everyone without the environmental impact that is commonly associated with fresh produce.
And is that the kind of the whole ethos of this as a business then? You're coming from that perspective, that you're wanting to do something that's environmentally less impactful for everybody, not just as an exclusive thing.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, we're a benefit company, so in our sort of articles of association, our rules of business, it says that we need to not just make money but also improve the environment and society. That's what it says. That's what we got to do all the time. And part of that is producing a food that everyone can eat that is healthy and is improving the environment, or is better for the environment than an alternative. It's just what we do.
And it tastes all right?
Yeah, it tastes great.
Come on, open a bag for us.
This one.
So what have we got in here? I think you've got 4 different kinds of leaf, haven't you? 4 different lettuces that you're growing at the moment.
Yes, we do. I wouldn't grill me on the types because I'm not one of the scientists, but we have, this is mescalita, which should be quite sweet. Oh, that's...
Enjoy the sounds of me eating lettuce here. That's really nice.
I mean, it does taste good. I mean, it's difficult, to convince people on a radio show to try and, but it does taste really good. But I would say that.
Well, it just tastes like good lettuce, doesn't it?
Go to a supermarket and buy some and let us know.
Let us know.
Right.
See what you've done there. Very good. So you're in the relatively early stages of production. This farm has only actually been fully operational since January.
Yeah, January, and then before that, spades in the ground to build the build the building around it was the previous January. So we've been moving quite quickly.
But you're also planning on building another building. You've got another 3 chambers that are coming on stream in the next few weeks.
Yeah. So to meet sort of our expected demand and trajectory, we're already building 3 more chambers. That will then, that's roughly half of the building that we've built already. And then we've got planning consent to build another building, like an extension, I guess, which is taller. It's about 5 meters taller. And that will contain even more chambers.
So I just want to talk briefly about another aspect to what you do as a business, which is the kind of the carbon offsetting of the stuff that you can't control within the construction of this. You've taken some quite deliberate steps around that as well.
Yes. So we're already a very low carbon business for the reasons I told you earlier. You know, we cut out a lot of emissions associated with fertilizer, and we use renewable energy, which makes a really big difference to our greenhouse gas emissions in comparison to, you know, a lettuce that's grown in a field in Spain. Which means that there are some pretty difficult emissions for us to fix. Like it's much more difficult for us where we are, given that we've cut out the big ones already. So typically, in a bag of lettuce, half of the greenhouse gas emissions of that bag of lettuce is just the bag, not the lettuce, the bag. How do you reduce that emission? We must use a packaging type that provides a highly food safe environment, which is also transparent because people want to see what they want to eat. So we use polypropylene. You know, if there was something else that was better, I would use it. But we can't not use the best material that's available, right? We have to provide the best product to our customers. That means using the best materials to package it, right? So what do? Well, we can look at trying to offset those emissions in the medium term before we can find an alternative. And I spent over a year trying to figure out what type of carbon offset we would do. I mean, there's so many different types of doing it, and you've got removals, you've got organic removals, then you've got sort of paying people not to do things, and then you've got removing, literally sucking carbon dioxide out of the air. There's all sorts of different things. But we stumbled on Wilder Carbon, which is the Kent Wildlife Trust's kind of wing in this space, and I really like what they were doing. You know, it does take a long time for them to remove carbon from the atmosphere, longer than perhaps some of the other things that are available. It's more expensive, a lot more expensive, but the additionality of what they're doing is just way up there compared to anyone else for lots of reasons. One, they're a charity, which means the beneficiary of what we're paying towards is, at the end of the day, always going to be the environment and wildlife, right? It's not going to go off somewhere else, to some corporate. That's a really big deal. Second is that it's a whole system approach to removing carbon, because they're putting a fence around land and then they're putting livestock in, and then those livestock are kind of doing what they did at NEP to let the landscape recover on its own. That's a really robust way of removing carbon, because it's the whole ecosystem that as it recovers, removes carbon from the atmosphere. It's not just a plantation of trees. It's everything within that ecosystem that is removing carbon, down to the insects and the birds and everything.
Is all this stuff important to you personally? Because you come from a sheep farming background, don't you?
Yeah. No, it absolutely. My weekend job, my family business, is a 1,500 acre sheep farm in southeast Scotland. And what I really liked about Paul Hadaway and his team and Sarah Brownlee is that they are conservationists who are doing farming, and I'm a farmer that wants to do farm a la conservation. There's this crossover nowadays that's only really happened in the last sort of 2 to 3 years, seriously, where farmers are thinking maybe we should farm slightly differently, and we might actually get more out of our land as a result. And there's conservationists going, we can't just fence off conservation and then point at the farmers and go, you're bad. They're working together to do things. And then, Paul Hadaway has something like 100 cattle. He's a he's the director of the wildlife director of the Kent Wildlife Trust, and he's got 100 cattle, you know. So I just really liked what they were doing, and I was like, that's what we're going to do.
And it would be very easy as you're driving past this building, because it is a big blue box, to think, oh, it's a factory unit, and to think of this as a factory production. But you're really keen to emphasise, no, this is a farm. This is a working farm that's just doing it in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, we're producing the same type of stuff. We're selling it to the same supermarkets. The same people are eating it. You know, it's the same thing. We are farmers. Therefore, this is a farm. The people who work here are farmers. You know, they're farm workers. We definitely try to frame the way we conduct our business day to day and everything like a normal farm. It's very important. We do not want to distinguish ourselves away from, you know, great British farming heritage.
Well, I think what you're doing here is extraordinary. I've not seen anything quite like it before. It's been a pleasure to take a look around at it. Gillon, thanks ever so much for your time.
Thank you very much for coming. Tasty lettuce, yeah.
That was absolutely fascinating. I have to say that I'm really enthused by what I've seen in GrowUp today. Gillon is a really nice guy who genuinely seems to want to do the right things for the environment, which I think is incredibly important. And in terms of the way that they're doing it, the idea that you can genuinely mass produce food for people that's going to be for sale in the supermarkets, that is environmentally kind, that has a really low carbon footprint, virtually no inputs needed, and therefore virtually no issues around pesticides and nitrates getting into the watercourses, all that kind of stuff. I think it's just brilliant, and it strikes me that this genuinely could be the future of farming. Time will tell, but at this stage, it looks like a really good thing. I'm, and it tastes good. So, what's not to like? What's not to like? Well done, GrowUp Farms. We like what you're doing here. It's good.